Welcome back to Koenigsegg'S Dagbok and welcome to episode 7 where we'll be talking about the Agera, which is the successor of the CCX and CCXR. And this thing, although in terms of design looks as good as possible, the main achievement and the main step up was in terms of engineering. And actually Agera means to take action in Swedish, and it is also the abbreviation of the Greek term ageratos, which means ageless, and both of these are perfect descriptors for this mean machine. And of course, in terms of design, don't get me wrong, this thing was a massive step up from the CCXR, and that looked good on its own, but Koenigsegg decided to up it on that on its own, and this was the final outlook, and this looked as good as possible. But this isn't the main party popper, it is the engineering part, and the main fact is the engine, and what went into the engine is the thing. And of course, during the development phase, the initial engine that was considered was a 4.7 liter twin turbocharged V8, but the engine that made it into the final production car was a 5 liter twin turbocharged V8. And turbotech had come a long way since the CCX and CCXR days, and the issue of turbo lag could also be wiped out if engineered properly. But with turbo engines with emission control came with catalytic converters that produced a lot of back pressure at high power levels, and this actually elevated through the turbo and into the exhaust ports of the engine, thereby causing EGR or exhaust gas recirculation, which is a source for detonation knocking. But Koenigsegg came out with another banger, and they basically placed the precad behind the wastegate instead of the turbo, thereby reducing the back pressure factor by 3, and it actually bumped up the power and gave it an extra 300 horsepower. And this meant that the Agera could competitively deliver on the aspects of power, torque and response to match larger engines at a fraction of their weight. And in terms of weight, the engine weighed in at only 197 kilograms. And this engine pitched 960 brake horsepower and it generated 1100 Newton meters of torque. And get this doesn't run on ethanol, it doesn't run on E85 or E100 biofuel, it is on normal pump fuel. So this thing, although the CCXR, the entire lineup basically ran on the E85 and it could generate over 1000 horsepower, basically 1018 to be exact, this thing on pump fuel was pitching 960 brake horsepower to the rear wheels, rear mid-engine of course, and the engine was mated to a brand new 7-speed automatic dual clutch gearbox. But this isn't any ordinary dual clutch gearbox, because this obviously had a singular primary clutch for shifting, but it actually had a smaller wet clutch which actually aided it and gave it similar shift times such that you'd get from a twin clutch box. And that meant that this thing was as compact, as small and as light as a single clutch box, but give the benefits and the shift times as you'd get from a twin clutch gearbox. So when I said that this thing was a proper engineering marvel and a proper step up in terms of the engine, gearbox and everything else, I wasn't lying, and this is proper proof of that. And the Agera also introduced the brand new VGR or vortex generating rims, which acted as wind turbines to suck in air and basically draw in air for brake cooling, and also assisted in downforce and at a significant rate. And since the offset and width is different from the front to the rear, all four wheels were designed on their own and they were machined later on, thereby removing the excess material, thereby downsizing the weight while maintaining the outstanding stiffness. And this has got a complete carbon fiber Kevlar reinforced body of course, and this thing weighs in at 1435 kilograms, and 197 kilograms of that weight comes from the engine on its own, so thereby boasting some awesome numbers on the paper. And of course this thing, 960 brake horsepower as I said, 1100 Newton meters of torque at the hand, rear wheel drive, rear mid engine, and it could also accelerate from 0 to 62 miles an hour or 100 kilometers an hour in 3 seconds, and it could accelerate from 0 to 124 miles an hour or 200 kilometers an hour in 8 seconds, and it could also accelerate from 0 to 124 miles an hour or 200 kilometers an hour and back to 0 in 13.5 seconds. So some phenomenal numbers on the paper of course. And this thing could produce 300 kilograms of downforce at the speed of 250 kilometers an hour. And this thing only had a 1-year production run of 2011, and only 7 units were ever made. Episode 7 units made. Wow, didn't even notice that until now. And of course dihedral synchro-helix doors, and of course you can remove the top, it's a targatop of course, you can remove it and store it in the front. Beautiful VGR wheels, not gonna lie, these are some of my most favorite wheels from Koenigsegg themselves. Dihedral synchro-helix doors, this is a complete carbon fiber body, 960 horsepower at the helm, 1100 Newton meters, and this thing also came with a couple of brand new features such as a leather or Alcantara option interior with Agera style stitching, power windows, an adjustable pedal box as well as an adjustable steering column, front and rear hydraulic system, as well as a complete digital audio system with Apple CarPlay as well as USB connection, power windows, as well as the dihedral synchro-helix doors as well. VGR wheels, as I said, carbon fiber louvers over the front and rear wheels, wing at the back, a significantly big diffuser as you guys can see, and obviously that center pipe exhaust. And of course in terms of design, this thing looks as beautiful as possible. and not to mention this thing is as bold and as track focused as it is sexy looking. And of course that 7-speed DCT on its own, that thing is a proper marvel. And of course 5-liter twin turbo V at 960 horsepower and 1100 Newton meters at the helm, rear wheel drive, meaning you can throw this thing around the corners as much as you want and drift it. And of course only 7 making it quite rare. Anyways, that was the Agera guys. What do you think? Leave it in the comments below. Thanks a lot for watching guys. Remember to hit that sub button and click the bell to ensure that you don't miss out on any future videos. Thanks a lot for watching guys. See ya. Stay tuned for episode 8.